If someone had come up to me when I first got chronic fatigue syndrome and said, I think this might be related to some childhood trauma. I think this is what caused this for you. And this is what we're going to have to look at to fix this. I think I would have probably dismissed that person quite quickly. I would have thought, oh boy, here we go. Like, this is one of those people. Kind of sounds like woo. It sounds implausible. It sounds really vague. It sounds a bit invalidating. I can't work. I can't socialize. I can barely leave the house. I barely get off the couch or get out of bed. How are you saying this is somehow related to something that happened in my childhood? And even, let's say that you are right, and oh my goodness, I hope you're not. And the reason I hope you're not is because this does not sound fixable. This sounds too just out there. Like, how on earth am I supposed to fix this if that's the case? And also, what makes it hard to believe is, okay, so this happened because I'm this sick now. I am barely functional now because of something that happened, let's say, 25 years ago. Why did all of a sudden, just last month or last year, whenever this came on, why did all of a sudden, so quickly, I started feeling so incredibly sick? It really just doesn't make any sense. And even though, like, I know most of us get to this place of utter desperation of like, okay, I will consider just about anything, this would have been a really hard one for me to get too invested in. So if you're hearing this and it sounds like all of that plus more to you, just really not credible and not worth your time pursuing, I really, really invite you to just stay curious if this is a new way of thinking for you, because I know, I get it. I think almost all of us thought these things when we first heard about it. So just do yourself this favor and take a few minutes right now to hear me out. And you'll hear the hundreds of people that I've interviewed on my channel say similar things to what I just said. And it takes us a while to get there. And the great news is that it isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. It's actually a very scientifically explainable thing that's happening in your body. And it's not as complex as it sounds. It's actually quite simple. This is really good news if you can figure out that this is a piece or maybe even the full reason of why you're going through what you're going through now. Because it is fairly simple to understand, although not easy to get past. It is 100% possible to reverse the symptoms when this is the cause of what's going on. And if you're already familiar with this, more recent science and understanding of the body and the mind-body connection and how symptoms are created, this right now, what I'm going to go through with you will be hopefully just give you some more insights on this. And I'm going to explain it in a simple and clear way that might be useful for you. So when you're at your next family gathering and you're trying to explain to people why this insanely debilitating thing that you're going through right now is linked to something that happened in your past or linked to emotions, and your relatives are looking at you with that, like, oh my goodness, you sound a little bit insane look. I'll give you a way to explain it that makes it make sense. So what I'm talking about right now clearly isn't going to apply to absolutely everybody out there. The latest estimate that I heard is that there are over 400 million cases of long COVID in the world right now. And I heard that statistic a while ago, so it is likely gone up. And although we don't know what's happening with everybody, what I'm talking about to some degree applies to far more people than what most people would probably think. And what this all comes down to, and I'm going to talk about specifically why the childhood trauma piece is important, and that can be big T trauma or small t trauma, is that this comes down to nervous system dysregulation conditions. And if you're new to this concept, if you're new to this science, if you're new to understanding the brain's role and the body's role in creating symptoms in your body, I'll link a video up here. You can open it. It'll open it in a new window. You can pause it, watch it now, or come back. It'll get you up to speed quickly. But here's the short version. Essentially, We have symptoms for a reason. They don't just come out of nowhere. They aren't just an unfortunate byproduct of life. They are a tool that our body's threat assessment systems have to alert us that something is going wrong. Like danger, danger, pay attention, you need to fix something. And here's why this applies to far more people than most people realize is that most of the experts out there now agree that there is no physical condition on the planet that anyone is facing right now where addressing this component, this nervous system regulation component doesn't apply to them. It applies to absolutely everybody. It's just how big of a piece of your recovery puzzle is this going to be? And I'm going to tell you the two main reasons that people discount this and say, no, 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 this isn't me. This is other people. I'm not one of those cases. And I'm going to share them with you because it really breaks my heart when I see so many people who are suffering, going through hell, and they completely throw out this approach to recovery, this important aspect of getting past symptoms because they think it doesn't apply to them. And I see it all the time in the comments in my videos and in the people that I interview. They say, you know what, for years I pushed back against this and I didn't think it was valid or I didn't think it applied to me. And then finally someone said it in a certain way and it clicked. And I started using these strategies for recovery and now I'm finally getting better. So for one, it breaks my heart that it takes people years, that they have years of extra suffering because they don't think this applies to them. And then the second thing is, oh, this is so much worse. The millions and millions of people that might never get better because they don't think this applies to them. So the first reason people discount this is that I've had tests done. Like I have got actual structural abnormalities happening in my body. There are things with my heart, with my mitochondria, with my bones. There's things in my brain. We've found Epstein-Barr virus and we found Lyme disease and we found all of these other things. And I'm not saying that there aren't physical things that happen in our bodies that need to be addressed with physical interventions. That is absolutely the case. Just don't think that just because you have structural abnormalities, that a nervous system regulation and brain training approach to healing won't work for you, because there isn't an adult on the planet, if you gave them a head-to-toe scan, who wouldn't have structural abnormalities. You would find stuff going on in the brain, abnormalities. You're going to find things in the bones. You're going to find latent viruses and bacteria in your body. You're going to find candida overgrowth and all sorts of things going on. And the term for this that is typically used is normal abnormalities. So essentially, it's normal to have abnormalities. So don't use this alone as a reason to write this off. And then the second reason that people discount this is that they say, well, I have like these 9 diagnoses. Like I have all these different illnesses. So clearly I have 9 different things that I need to address. And I have to come at this 9 different ways. I've got ME/CFS, I've got long COVID, I've got chronic Lyme disease, I've got MCAS, I've got POTS, I've got fibromyalgia, I've got IBS, and not saying that in every one of these conditions and these diagnoses that nervous system regulation is going to be 100% your answer. But I'm telling you that in all of these conditions, quite often it is. Okay, so back to our original question. And this one actually comes up a lot. And it's such a good question. How does childhood trauma cause long COVID or any of those other 8 things and beyond that I just mentioned? That is by no means an exhaustive list of conditions that this applies to. So there are things that predispose people to being more susceptible to nervous system dysregulation conditions. So conditions where your nervous system goes onto high alert, maybe gets a little bit oversensitive, maybe starts having some, like coding things wrong as danger when they're really not. And a major thing that sets your nervous system and your brain up this way, your body's threat assessment systems, is childhood trauma. And I think we're all starting to understand a bit that childhood trauma isn't what we used to think of it as. Yes, it can be abuse, neglect, growing up in unsafe conditions, parents with mental illness or addictions, living in countries where there are wars going on, where there is scarcity for food and poverty and all of those things. But childhood trauma can come from so many other things. It can come from having really demanding parents. It can come from going to a really competitive school. It can come from so much of your worth, being told that so much of your worth comes from your achievements and being perfect and being polite and making everybody else happy. And all of these things, this whole spectrum, trains your brain and nervous system to be constantly assessing for threats, to be on high alert, and to see the world through a lens of danger. Your sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight or fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, can be engaged far more often. It's like trigger happy. It comes on in a second. So what can happen is that over the years, it's been assessing threat after threat after threat after threat, and your nervous system has been in fight or flight chronically for many periods of your life. So the reason that 25 years can pass and all of a sudden you have long COVID isn't that it just suddenly made this connection to something that happened in your childhood. It's that it started there and it's been building, and it's been threat assessment and danger. Danger, danger, danger is what it's been assessing for far too long. And it's sort of like the threat assessment that broke the camel's back, that just your nervous system sends off all the alarm bells and they're like, we're done. We're shutting things down. The world is not safe. Things are not okay. I need to scream at you so loud to get your attention. And that's what it's doing. The tools that it has to do that is symptoms. So if you are having symptoms right now, still chronically, 100%, your brain and nervous system still think there's a threat. So if this is what's happening for you, there's two really important pieces here. One is just understanding that this is what's happening, understanding how and why these symptoms are being created, and that your body is actually okay. This is great news. I wish someone would have told me this all these years ago, because it was terrifying. It felt like I was having a multi-systemic organ body system shutdown. It felt like I was getting to a place of no return, when in these cases, that's actually not what's happening. And then the second piece is how to turn those alarm bells off. And when the alarm bells are coming from emotional threats, and as you'll hear me say over and over on purpose, because I want to really drive this home, our threat assessments systems in our body assess emotional and physical threats in our brain the exact same way. It's the exact same pathways. So if it is emotional stress, you have to address where that's coming from. And the great news is that you don't have to resolve all of your past trauma. You don't have to be in a perfectly, wonderful state of bliss. You just have to get things to a manageable level. And my favorite way lately that I've heard this explained was by Nicole Sachs, and she talks about your emotional reservoir, which you might have heard me talk about before, because it's such a great way to understand what's going on. So in addition to your brain being on high alert and registering all that danger, you've also been piling things down. It's like picturing a glass beaker inside of you that you just keep shoving down, shoving down, shoving down, shoving down. And once it gets to that overflowing state, that's when the long COVID came. That's when the CFS came. That's when your brain found something that you would believe. That's a whole other topic called the symptom imperative. But, if you had COVID, long COVID, and people around you have long COVID, that's a likely thing that you are going to think is happening. It chooses symptoms that will make sense to you. If you have a history of migraines in your family, it's going to give you migraines. If you have a history of CFS in your family, it's going to give you CFS symptoms. So, and to turn those alarm bells off and get those symptoms, the alarm bells are the symptoms, to stop, you just need to get that emotional reservoir down to a manageable level. It doesn't have to be empty. So you just have to start to unpack all of that. And if this all still sounds a bit ethereal to you and you really just don't know, like, okay, so what does this mean? What are my next steps from here? I'm understanding all of this. But yet I don't really seem to be getting anywhere. I just feel stuck. I walk you through concrete ways to move past this and very specific things that can keep you feeling stuck in this next video that I'll link up here. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in this next video.